"You'll need to clear out by Friday," the woman said, smiling like she was offering me a coupon. "The board approved your property for the fundraiser." For a second, I thought she had the wrong house. I stood barefoot on my porch, coffee cooling in my hand, morning fog still tangled in the cedars behind my fence. The gravel drive was damp from last night's rain. My dog, Rowan, leaned against my leg, warm and steady. Everything about that moment was quiet and ordinary, except for her sentence. Clear out. My property. Approved. I asked her to repeat it. She did, slower this time, the way people speak to someone they've already decided is difficult. That was the first crack in the life I'd carefully built. I moved here for the silence. After 15 years in a glass and steel city where every sound ricocheted off concrete and nerves, I wanted trees, dirt, and a horizon that didn't end in another building. My house sat at the far edge of a planned community, technically under an HOA, but barely. Most of the neighborhood was tucked into neat cul-de-sacs. Mine backed into a stretch of undeveloped land that rolled into forest. I chose it because no one walked past my fence unless they were lost. My mornings were ritual. Coffee brewed slow, windows cracked just enough to let in pine and damp earth. Rowan and I walked the perimeter while dew soaked our shoes. I fixed small things with my hands, loose hinges, cracked boards, a leaky hose bib, because I liked knowing how things fit together. I didn't host parties. I didn't want visitors. My peace was earned and protected. The HOA had always been background noise, quarterly newsletters, occasional reminders about trash bins or fence paint. I complied without drama and forgot about them, until that woman stood on my porch with a clipboard and a rehearsed smile. "Fundraiser?" I asked. "What fundraiser?" She tilted the clipboard towards herself as if the answer lived there. "The Spring Community Gala. Tents, catering, live music. Your yard backs up to the greenbelt. It's perfect for overflow parking and the children's activity area." I stared at her. "Your yard is private property." Her smile tightened. "You're within HOA boundaries. That doesn't mean you can reserve my home like a banquet hall." She gave a soft laugh, the kind meant to soothe. "It's all in the bylaws." I asked to see the clause. She said she'd email it. She never did. Over the next 2 days, I noticed little things. Bright plastic flags appeared along the edge of my driveway, marking where vehicles would supposedly line up. A laminated flyer was taped to my mailbox advertising the gala, with an aerial photo of the neighborhood. Someone had circled my lot in red marker. Neighbors I barely knew waved a little too cheerfully when I passed. One of them said, "Looks like you're hosting the big party." I corrected him. He shrugged. "That's not what the board said." That was the first warning sign. Not the request, not even the assumption, the certainty. I emailed the HOA president, a man named Cal Mercer. Polite, direct. I stated clearly that no one had permission to use my property, and I expected the flags removed immediately. No reply. I called the management company. They put me on hold for 17 minutes and disconnected me. On Wednesday evening, a truck arrived with wooden stakes and started pounding them into the edge of my lawn. I walked out and told them to stop. The foreman checked his paperwork and said, "We've got authorization." I told him he didn't. He told me to take it up with the HOA. As he drove away, leaving a line of scarred dirt along my grass, something settled in my chest. Not panic, not anger yet. Recognition. This wasn't confusion or scheduling error. This was someone deciding my space didn't belong to me. If you like the video, please subscribe. I stayed calm longer than most people would have. I printed my deed, highlighted property lines, pulled HOA bylaws from the county website, and marked every section that confirmed what I already knew. The HOA had no authority to commandeer privately owned lots for events. I emailed again. Certified letter this time. Still Nothing. By Thursday, word had spread that I was holding up the fundraiser. I overheard it at the mailbox cluster. A woman muttered that I was selfish. Another said the event funded the community playground upgrades. Someone left an anonymous note in my box. Don't be the bad guy. It was strange how quickly quiet turns into suspicion when you don't bend. The stakes multiplied overnight. White paint appeared on the gravel. Someone measured the width of my gate without asking. A rental company truck idled outside my fence while the driver scrolled his phone. I called the non-emergency line. They said it was a civil matter. I scheduled a meeting with the HOA board. They held it in a glass conference room that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and stale coffee. 5 people sat around a table. Cal Mercer was at the head. He had expensive teeth and practiced patience. He spoke like this was already settled. "You're technically correct," he said, fingers steepled, "but community benefit outweighs individual inconvenience." "Inconvenience is someone blocking my driveway for an hour," I said, "not turning my home into a parking lot." A woman beside him added, "You don't even use most of the yard." I felt something tighten behind my ribs. Cal leaned forward. "We can compensate you." "With what? A gift card?" He smiled. "Reduced HOA fees for 6 months." I declined. His eyes cooled slightly. "You're creating unnecessary friction," he said. That phrase stuck with me. After that meeting, the pressure escalated. I received violation notices for things that had never been issues before. Grass allegedly half an inch too long, a trash bin placed visibly for 15 minutes too long, a warning about my fence stain color, unchanged for years. Neighbors stopped meeting my eyes. Someone posted in the community forum that I was anti-community and possibly unstable. The word landed heavier than it should have. Isolation crept in quietly. But something else surfaced too. I used to work in compliance auditing for a logistics firm. My job had been tracing paper trails, identifying discrepancies, mapping responsibility when systems failed or people lied. I left that world for peace, but the skills didn't leave me. I started pulling public records on the HOA, vendor contracts, payment histories, event permits. Patterns emerged. Inflated invoices, repeated payments to the same 3 shell companies, event deposits routed through a private account tied loosely to Cal Mercer's name via an LLC in his wife's maiden name. It wasn't just arrogance, it was money. I installed additional cameras around my property, legal ones, clearly visible. I began logging every interaction, every notice, every unannounced visit. I archived forum posts before moderators deleted them. Then the real hit came. A certified letter arrived stating the HOA was placing a lien review on my property for accumulated violations and non-cooperation. It was a bluff, but a heavy one, enough to rattle lenders, enough to make people nervous. For a brief moment, I felt the edge of losing something real. That night, I sat on the porch in the dark. Rowan's head rested on my foot. Wind moved through the trees like distant surf. The quiet I'd protected felt thinner, fragile. I considered backing down, letting them use the yard, letting the machine roll over me. Instead, I made a different decision. I forwarded my documentation to a contact I still trusted, an investigator who specialized in municipal fraud. I filed a formal complaint with the county oversight office. I quietly tipped a local journalist known for slow, meticulous work. And then, deliberately, I appeared to give up. I emailed Cal and said I'd allow limited access under strict conditions. I requested everything in writing. I asked for proof of insurance, site plans, and liability waivers. He responded within 5 minutes. Overconfidence does that to people. The gala setup began Saturday morning. Trucks rolled in, tents unfolded like pale wings across the neighboring common area. Workers placed cones near my gate. I allowed exactly what I had agreed to, nothing more. Cal arrived mid-morning, already sweating in his pressed shirt. He surveyed the space like a general inspecting territory. "You did the right thing," he said, clapping my shoulder without permission. I didn't respond. What he didn't know was that every conversation was recorded, every instruction, every deviation from the written agreement. By noon, he pushed beyond boundaries. He directed a truck to drive onto my lawn to reposition equipment. I stepped in front of it. Cal's smile vanished. "Don't be dramatic," he snapped. "We're on a timeline." "You're violating the agreement," I said quietly. He waved a hand. "I'll make it worth your while." That sentence mattered. Later, he instructed workers to connect temporary power to my exterior outlet without asking. He authorized a portable restroom placement partially on my land despite clear refusal. Each small infraction built a record. By evening, alcohol flowed at the fundraiser. Cal grew louder, looser. He bragged openly near the catering tent about how the board controlled the neighborhood, about how enforcement kept people in line, about how events were where the real money moved. He didn't realize the small black lens mounted on my fence had perfect audio. The following Monday, the article published. Not sensational, just precise. Financial irregularities, misuse of HOA authority, questionable vendor relationships, audio excerpts, document scans. By Tuesday, county investigators arrived. By Friday, Cal Mercer resigned. By the following month, charges were filed. The lien threats vanished. The violation notices were rescinded. The board restructured under oversight. The neighborhood slowly exhaled. Some neighbors apologized. Some avoided me. I didn't need either. I replanted the scarred edge of my lawn. I removed the temporary gravel marks. I sat on my porch again in the mornings, coffee warm, fog lifting through the trees. The silence returned, but deeper now, earned again. I learned something important in the process. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Privacy doesn't mean passive. And standing your ground doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like patience, documentation, and letting people reveal who they really are. Peace isn't the absence of conflict. It's the confidence that you won't surrender your dignity when conflict arrives. Have you ever had to defend your space, your boundaries, or your sense of home against someone who thought they could take it from you?